Hello everybody and welcome to the 15th World Esports Championship presented by IESF, where Yash has become the global capital of esports. It's been an amazing week plus of competition across a variety of titles, but the last 2 days and the next day are all about Mobile Legends Bang Bang. We kicked off the action yesterday with group stages that led into our playoffs, started the upper bracket of our playoffs, and had some pretty big upsets. Mongolia falls to the lower bracket, where they will now face Kazakhstan here in a win or go home matchup. It's gonna be one heck of a game, and guess what? We have a great competition ahead of us. The entire MLBB competition has been great so far, and guess what? Speaking of great, we got two great casters, two of the best in Mobile Legends to call the action, so it is my honor to introduce today for the very first time none other than Naisu and OSX. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you so much. Great to have you on stage with us. Fallout here again. Yes, I'm Naisu, joined here with OSX to bring you the action once again for MLBB day number 2 of the playoffs. Yesterday was jam-packed. Today is even more packed, right? We've got 5 series, and you heard it right on the stage. We're starting off with some of the lower bracket matches, so someone is going home here today.
Yep, a lot of wild matches today. We are looking at 5 series to happen. We're going to start from the lower bracket. These are the teams that was eliminated yesterday. So a lot of things that they can actually recover, take some now from the lessons yesterday, and put something through with new metas that they can do for their games.
We talked about yesterday how they had, that second life. Well, now that's gone, right? And so
one more chance.
We have this lower bracket that we really have to focus on, and I feel like even the first match today, just how it started yesterday. We talked about the whole storyline there. This time, though, for day number 2, it's kind of a dark horse versus dark horse story, right? They were their own dark horses of the tournament in their own respective journeys here to this point of the stage, and now, once again, it's anybody's game, right? The fact is, there is a lot of, I feel like fans online, especially for both these two teams, especially with what Kazakhstan has accomplished, from the group stages and everything else. Of course, Mongolia, like we got to see even back in the Asian Championships.
Yep.
So altogether, it's all gonna unfold here. Not to mention, later on today, we also have a very looked after rematch in a way, right? 2 powerhouse countries, of course, the Philippines and Indonesia going at it later.
One more time.
I feel like that just keeps happening, because those two countries alone always battling it out. But like we said, this first matchup is crucial here.
It's the rivalry that we've seen from the global tournaments that has developed from Philippines to Indonesia. But today we're talking about 2 teams that nice to mention that from even myself, I call it the poison of this tournament, because in our way of looking at this competition, some of the teams or some countries we did not expect to actually rise to the occasion. We've seen the Kazakhstan team actually have a way of getting a clutch throughout their matches from the group stage to the playoff stage, and as well as Mongolia, one of the defeated teams. Undefeated rather from the group stages. Now they had their first defeat yesterday, but Philippines right now remains undefeated as of this moment. But for the one life that we're trying to look upon here for the lower bracket this is the go big or go home stage for these 4 teams.
Yeah, again, it's down to this, right? Day 2 is packed for a reason, because you obviously have to have these winners. You're going to have losers that have to step out of the tournament, step out of contention here, right? And we all know at this point, especially day 2, at this point, it gets a lot more intense. I feel like, especially with the teams going head-to-head here. Not only that, but just yesterday alone, we had how many surprises, right? Not just from team to team, but also in the draft alone. I can't wait to see what today unfolds for us, but we are going to go ahead and throw it back over to the main stage with John for Fallout there to give us a warm welcome to these first teams battling it out today.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. And guess what? Ladies and gentlemen in the crowd, make some noise, get excited here as we get ready for our first matchup, because it's time for our matchup of the morning. Lower bracket, go big or go home scenario for 2 dominant teams in MLBB. Introducing first the team that will be playing to my right, losing just yesterday 2-1. It's Kazakhstan! And next, the team that went undefeated in the group stage, as OSX mentioned, but took a loss yesterday to everyone's surprise, a powerhouse squad. It's Mongolia! Make some noise, everybody in the crowd, as we get ready for this marquee matchup. Good luck to both squads. I want to get a few words from Zan here of Kazakhstan, though, as we kick things off. Zan, if you could join me over here. Yesterday, you guys took a 2-1 defeat to Saudi Arabia. What happened in that matchup?
So, I don't know what happened exactly. The players know all details, but after this loss, we made a small reload. We discussed all things and about today's match. We know our opponent. We understand their strength. We show respect to them, and we are ready to fight with them.
Love it. I respect the respect shown. A team that deserves your respect. They went 3-0 in group stages. But what's your mentality like? It's win or go home. If you lose, you're eliminated from this tournament. How are the players feeling today?
So we have nothing to lose. We understand that we have fans there and also in our country. They just giving us a lot of motivation. We know that the losers of this match goes home, but we must prevent our going home.
I love it. Must prevent it and must prevail. Way. If you guys can shake hands, dap it up, feel free, and get ready for this next matchup. I'm going to go ahead and throw it back to OSX Naisu at the desk. Everyone make some noise as we get ready for this matchup here. OSX Naisu, back to you.
Thank you so much. Great to hear there from Zan, right? And also, yeah, it is the do-or-die match, and they're prepared, right? I feel like a lot of these teams here obviously know their opponents up to this point very well. They're prepared, but at the end of the day, how do they execute it within the game, right? That's the biggest thing. And, you know, OSX, we contemplated so much of the different metas that have been forming, not just here in IESF, around the world, different tournaments going on. But I feel like, again, we've established ourselves in a pretty good area, right, for the most part. Now, if there's anything about these two teams, I would say, is some of the very reminiscent of Brazil, what I was saying the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Vibrant when they come to the draft, when they decide to go with certain strategies, they like to test the waters a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But let's go ahead, again, let's introduce Mongolia here for day number 2.
For the old lane, we have Bebex. Jungle lane, we have Sora. XP, we have Aizen. We have for the mid lane, we have Forbid. We have Ethan for the roaming lane. You've mentioned about Vibrant. We've seen Guinevere picks up yesterday, and also the Florian that has been banned from most of the times right here in Yash 2023. So we're going with the same lineup for Team Mongolia, and I love what they're going through with that interview. It's all about the mental recovery, the reset, as Kazakhstan said, the reload that they have to do to make this chance work in order to proceed to the next stage of the lower bracket.
And again, I think the biggest thing about this lineup alone is just there's a lot of these expectations for certain roles within the lineup, but really once the synergy is obviously there from the team, you know, from start to finish, or even if they're down, we've seen this squad really turn things around based off synergy alone, right? But unfortunately, it didn't work out in their favor yesterday. So hopefully, again, they've had time to just kind of recoup, recalibrate, and approach this matchup with what people are used to seeing, you know, and the same can be said across the board. It's also just nice to hear, right, for a team like Kazakhstan, again, there's parts of the world that have been growing and growing for MLBB, right, and rising through the ranks, and I feel like it's great to see a team such as Kazakhstan get these fans globally, because a lot of people, man, especially from the group stages, were talking about them specifically and how they performed throughout the group stages. The fact that you have some of these amazing players going against some of the best in the world and actually taking games from them as well, right? And winning some of those games too, right? Remember, they were the ones that sent the USA out back in the group stages, right? So amazing thing. Let's take a look at the lineup here once again for Kazakhstan. We've got Red in the gold lane, Kinesis in the jungle, just an absolute madman. Kazakh here in the XP lane, Kashi in the mid, and Alim in the roam. Now, biggest thing too, we've actually seen these interchange, right? Alim did play some gold lane yesterday. He had a little bit of struggles. We'll see, right? How they kind of situate here today.
They're versatile in
versatile,
terms of roles, right? So you've mentioned about the impact from Kazakhstan, and from their history back in the Asian Oceania qualifiers back in Riyadh, both of these two teams actually had a way of surprising.
They did, yeah.
Mostly of the strong teams right into the competition. And yesterday, Kazakhstan was the only team who created the tiebreaker match from the first day of the playoffs. So there's no surprise from their recovery right now. They have this way of getting through of, okay, it's like go big or go home, but we got nothing to lose. And they could take it as a way of moving forward, of making this a passion to go with the challenges?
I think going back from what we learned yesterday, just in the first day of the playoffs, where a lot of things were kind of unfolded anyway, is number one, how do you keep your gold lane to have that gold lane experience, right, for the most part, which is
the gold lane summer experience.
Yeah, and it feels like
true.
summer here, right? But the point is both the gold laners for both these teams have the capability of doing that with the team setups that they have and the way they kind of play around that. But more often than not, I would say if you're matching up Bebex and Alim, or if it is red in the gold lane, we'll have to see. Bebex oftentimes performs very well, like consistently, I guess you could say, consistently.
Yep.
He's able to do that, and that's, I think, one of the big difference factors here, or at least the work that needs to be done from Kazakhstan, is allow your gold lane to get to that point where you are outperforming, if not outcompeting, against Bebex.
Yeah, speaking of the gold lane summer experience, this is like how you can actually be in your lane by not being disturbed. Yesterday, we've seen these two teams use the Brody. We have seen the Melissa first time, but it wasn't a good Melissa game back in the first series. But in the last series of yesterday, it was a way of like having a retribution for this hero. But for this time around, they have similarities of pulling off this kind of draft. So most of them has this capability of utilize or capitalizing more on the AoE team fights. We rarely see Eve on the few matches yesterday, and it gives so much impact to team fights. And now we head into the draft. Let's see how this goes. What is the priority here of Kazakhstan? Because a lot of things yesterday could have changed right now if you want to have a chance to proceed for the next stage.
Well, I like it, right? Jumping into this draft here, we're going to see some of these first bans come through. I don't expect too much variation in the first phase anyway, OSX, because of the fact that, again, these are just common heroes that are typically taken out so far here in IESF.
Yep.
Kadita we saw slip through like, once or twice yesterday, and it was quite devastating.
Yeah, used by Arcangel as well for Philippines, and it was deadly.
It was.
Franco and Akarata, you don't want to in your composition, especially if you want the ganks right out of your lane, right? It's just so a massive disturbance for the first minute to 5.
So what I'm thinking is still priority here once we get through these next couple bans is still the Fredrin, right? One of the, if not, I think still statistically the highest picked hero, not just here, but like everywhere around the world, right? One of the heroes that just constantly fits any team composition, team role for the most part. And it would be great too if we actually see one of these teams decide to ban it, so it forces another option in the jungle. But right now, Mongolia goes ahead and takes out the Angela for now. They just don't want to deal with that. And it's funny, too, because Angela still, as great as that hero can be, as great as having the Heart Guard can be, sometimes it's just not enough, right? But maybe it's more so, hey, we don't want to deal with that sustainability. We don't want to deal with the possibility of an Angeline combination, because that is a very, I would say, one of the top combination of heroes that has that snowball potential out of this roof, basically.
Since we're talking about the good pairings for jungle heroes such as the Angela, let's look at how Kazakhstan is prioritizing their picks yesterday. It's mostly either the mage that goes first or their jungler pick. They have a favorite pick, which is the Martis or the Fred or the just two heroes, basically.
Martis or Fred?
Martis or Fred. So they ban out the Lance, they ban out the Fanny, as well as the Joy. If Mongolia doesn't secure a spot here to ban out the Eve, might as well Kazakhstan would take it on the first one. Either they gambit with the Eve or just their utility jungler.
I think either way, you're setting yourself up for success, right? Because when it really comes to the priority picks, like you have so many options, right? Whether you want to utilize the options in the jungle, whether it's, hell, even if it's the Valentina, right? Which we've seen so many times pop up, even in the first pick. Now, some of the weird stuff that happened yesterday was Paquito first picked. I don't think that's going to happen here.
Either
so
Fred
is open.
Fred or Eve.
That's Novaria, by the way.
Novaria.
So, side note, that is not an R-lot. This was happening yesterday, too. It kind of threw us off a little bit. I know, some of the viewers online as well. That R-lot frame there is Novaria. We hear the audio. So that is going to be Novaria locked in. The response on the other side is exactly who we were kind of expecting. Valentina Fredrin comes through. Okay.
As expected, they took the Novaria. That's good. So it's going to be the Rome. This is a different route that we're seeing for Kazakhstan, because either they go for the Fredrin or they go for the jungler, but they go for the Rome instead. But it's a good 2 picks. You've mentioned about the sustain, the anti-sustain heroes that actually be beneficial in team fights. You pair it with the Eve that has a good amount of AoE and burst, and pair it with the Baksha, which is so essential yesterday. We've seen Saudi Arabia use it. Now, most of the teams are using this hero to actually aid with their team fights. If you're up against a veteran, you don't want that to be a disturbance right into team fights, especially with the objective takes.
Okay, and I like that Baksha is still getting picked up here. Still one of those heroes that I feel like, serves a purpose. Most of it, at least from what we've seen, is it works really well going for those gold lanes. This is where we were talking about yesterday constantly about the gold lane experience, getting to the point where you need to be online for your team. Now, Baksha he adds this dynamic to it. Yes, the passive is great. Yes, his tankiness is great as well, mobility and everything else. But it really puts pressure, from other angles towards that gold lane. And I think the great response from Mongolia was Irithil, because she's one of those gold laners, one of those marksmen that really obviously is built into mobility and just the way that her kit works, especially with the emblems, right?
Yeah, speaking of kit, man,
really well.
If you're up against an Eve, you might as well escape that chessboard or even the sandpit that we call once the real world manipulation is set down, and you're up against a Baksha, just pulls you down with his own ultimate. So this one you're securing yourself by just using the Irithil, which is actually a team or a player favorite right here in Yash. So you can't go wrong with that. So a good respect though, with the Turizla, we know how Aizen plays this hero so well. He's a madman, he's a beast with this kind of hero. So with the respect as well for the Brody, because again, we've talked about the gold lane comparisons back in the draft. So they respect the hell out of the Brody, and they're putting down more of the choices to actually either use the Claude they're just letting the Claw go for Kazakhstan.
Again, based off just how yesterday went, I think you're comfortable doing that. If you are Mongolia here, you let it slip through. Never mind, they decide to ban it.
There you go, good ban though.
So they decide to ban two marksman options here.
That's good.
But that just makes me think, left open, especially since you have an Irithel across for you, do you really want to go for a more of a classic marksman pick like the Beatrix, or do you actually want to opt for who we haven't seen yet in the playoffs from yesterday, maybe the Bruno, right? Bruno is actually, his performance overall has been pretty good, especially with the new item, right? The new item, or maybe even opt for a Clint, right? That might be your options for the gold lane here for Kazakhstan. Their last ban is going to be Hayabusa here. Interesting that they decide to ban that out, so that means they're not exactly 100% sure, right? Is the Fredrin going in the jungle? Surprising that they decided to ban out the Hayabusa.
Either way, it's good. They're probably just securing the back line. It's mostly Eve and Baksha having to pair with those slows once the fight gets started. And also, Yuzong wasn't even banned yet. They either go for Hayabusa because it's so hard to catch Hayabusa once he initiates with the Udi shadow kill. And how do you even think of getting a good catch if you're just a Baksha? Either they paired with another one with a great pull, but Mongolia decides to take Faramis first. And it's a way of having a good sustain for your marksman as well.
This is a throwback.
Yeah, throwback for a classic lineup.
I mean, the throwback alone here between the Faramis and Valentina. Remember when that combination was rising through the ranks?
Yeah.
And people constantly, it was either, what we saw before was either Valentina priority and then the Faramis with the answer. Then there's teams that, yes, they decide to draft both, and it can work really well, right? But at the same time, it can falter. Looking at this, the marksman pick for Kazakhstan is going to be the Beatrix, like we said.
Though.
I just feel like Beatrix is probably like the Fredrin of marksman, right? It's a safe option. You have a ton of different, literally, guns for different situations. And like you mentioned earlier, OSX, the Yuzong comes to play for the XP lane.
Yeah, they decided to go for the Hayabusa. Yuzong is much a better way to zone out the members right now of Mongolia, considering that there's an Irithel or even a Faramis. There's a lot of dash, there's a lot of evade from the composition of Mongolia right now, and to secure that path for their Beatrix and also pair with an Eve with their ultimate combo that can be devastating when you hit 5th or 8th minute. It's just one thing securing your own damage, but hello! Ling finally pops up, and Mongolia uses it for the first time in the playoffs.
I love that it went that way. So Kazakhstan did a great job, right? The question for some people was, why the Hayabusa ban? Well, Fredrin is actually going in the XP lane here, right? So that's one of the great things about flexibility for these heroes is you're not 100% sure where they go, so they just wanted to cover their bases. They go ahead, take out the Hayabusa, Fredrin parked in the XP lane. Ling, on the other hand, right, in the jungle, that is, once again, very similar to a Fanny, right? It's high risk, high reward. You have to be able to secure your purple buffs. You have to be able to secure your early jungle rotations if you really want to shine here on this lane.
Speaking of shining, you have Faramis with you have Fling with you, so with the roam, with this kind of responsibility, you need to have more vision this time.
Well, we're going to have to see if they're able to pull it off here. And in just a bit, we'll be jumping into the land of dawn. We can hear it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the do-or-die match, the best of three between the Kazakhstan and Mongolia. Whoever loses this is out of the tournament here.
Yeah, you've mentioned about the high-risk, high-reward play because of you being a Ling, you need to have that purple secured most of the times that your objective shows up. We're looking at now Ethan moving towards the mid lane, having control over the river is a bigger way of an impact for the Ling to have more recon on where the teams or players are coming from Kazakhstan. But if you're up against Baksha, well, now he's on level 3 compared to Cesar now is on level 2. On damage, on early game, Baksha is much more durable in as way as having more sustain and can coordinate with the folks like this. Void Crystal. Oh, he forced the flicker out of Ethan as well.
Already early on. Oh, gonna go in for the Astral Recall too. Not gonna be able to land it, but still great pressure. You know, this early on, able to get something out. Yeah, it didn't convert into a kill, but you at least got the flicker down from Ethan. That's gonna help him too. And even looking, you know, as we take a second here, looking at the emblem setups from what everyone go. Oh, Kashi's in trouble.
Oh, he's forced out one member out to respond here for Mongolia. Now Bebex is trying to get it for the free hits, but now he pushed out Kinesis out of that distance. Now first point goes to Mongolia. 25 seconds for the first objective, and this is just gaining control of the early game, especially in the river.
This is how we expect both these teams to play, right? Just full on against each other this early on. And mind you, that first blood kill also went over in the hands of ZXora, right? That's already probably the best start you can have on one of those high-risk, high-reward heroes. And this Ling should be able to scale up really well. This also allows you to have a better start and at least a little more confidence with the first objective takes. But you can see Kinesis, he has performed so well through the group stages up to here. He's going to go ahead and start it up.
There's the XP lane coming from Mongolia. The eyes right onto the turtle. Who's going to first objective? It's going to be Cesora taking the first one. Now on to the fight. We have a skirmish breaking out here. Tempest Blades being used. What's going to be the first target here for Kazakhstan is going to be Kashi. Followed on the hands of Cesara. Now with a follow-up here, Cesara's falls down with a trade. Red takes another kill, but Ice is letting go of Kinesis with the slow, aiding him with a kill. Forbid takes Kinesis down. A trade of 2-2. Now 3 points on to Mongolia and 2 points for Kazakhstan. Coming out from the first objective fight.
Scrappy already, right? Game number 1 here. That's exactly what you off-camera kill to another kill going in the hands here for Kazakhstan. This one, and we saw this yesterday too, when Yuzhong gets beefed up these early kills, it's going to be great. Look at that perfect dragon form, utilizing that petrify as well earlier on, able to grab himself a kill, and he's going to continue to stack up. We've seen Kazakh play before, and it's troublesome. Usually he's on the Lapu Lapu, right? That's, I feel like, one of his signature heroes. Was that stolen? I think he was able to secure it. ZXora did. But this is going to continue on. I feel like the slugfest between these two teams, right? But when it comes to those neutral objectives, biggest thing Kazakhstan has to watch out for is the fact that you have Ethan on this Faramis. He's got the Eternal Realm ultimate ability, and then at the same time Forbid can just choose what he wants, right, from Kazakhstan. Whether that's the most likely the real world manipulation, but he might even see him take the dragon form for initiation if he decides to do that. That's what's so great about having a Valentina here.
You have a lot of ultimates to be taken out of Kazakhstan, also forcing them to use resources such as this. Void Crystal now being connected, Arsenal being placed upon Bebex. He falls down in hands of Kinesis. Ethan, look at that, used the Nether Realm right away to regen, and nobody's going down with a follow-up from Kazakhstan attack. Bebex falls down, Alim pushing down with the Outer Turret energy shields out of Mongolia's defenses.
Great pickups here. Also going to result in them taking... Wow! How did Ethan just take the turtle? That was a well-timed just on his part, but the retribution was off on Kinesis there. You know, he didn't have it, so unfortunately they lose it.
Wow.
And you know, they lose the second turtle now over in the hands of Mongolia. So, you know, you don't need, I guess, don't need a jungler right there for Mongolia.
Just having the game sense and precision of damage. Aleem gonna fall down from Aizen, a 3-man engage just right down bottom, and they're not letting go. Force out the flick out of Kashi, being in the trouble zone here for Mongolia. Kinesis just is offering himself for the 3, but he's still sustaining all the damage. So tanky as well, coming from Kazakhstan, but here comes the reinforced backfire, and now Mongolia falls back in their own defenses.
That's just unreal. Like, Kinesis has leg plates and a couple, you know, a little bit of extra armor there too, and I get, you know, how the ultimate also helps him be a little more tanky. He's got the tank emblems, but that was literally Kinesis jumping in, what, 1v4, 1v5 there, and living to be quite healthy after that whole exchange. So this is, again, showing possibly, you know, in a matchup, jungler matchup here, Baksha versus a assassin jungler. He's doing pretty well. He's keeping up. He's putting pressure around the map. He might be down, you know, a level here and there, but ultimately he's doing what he has to do. He also picks up another big item. Pickups got locked in his first item. He's still rolling with a Molten Essence as well, so now you're going to see him get a little bit more tankier to deal with all this physical damage being thrown at him.
Yeah, having the Concussive Blast as an emblem for Baksha, just being a naturally tankier dude and scales by the minute, just basing on HP, that's controlled AoE damage from most of the ultimates coming from a Baksha. As you can see, well, the lead right now is still in par, almost 400 gold lead. We have the turtle now being present, but the positioning of Aizen here, we are looking for an angle here on how will Mongolia have an entry, but so far Kinesis has eyes on the first hits on this objective. Black Dragon form though, circling around, trying to box out two members. Zorn being petrified. Now they're not able to get that objective away. Look at that Forbid. Just going around in Black Dragon form, chasing down member 1 to 2. But look at the damage from Aleem. Bebix might fall down. Yes, he will. Kinesis secures the kill. And now Forbid is out of the damage, but Ethan receives more of the bullets. Forbid falls down. Aleem could be on a streak here, but he decides to just clear with the minions. And that is just skirmishes coming from extra casualties from the objective state of this game.
Yeah, look at this. I was going to say, is Kazakh actually thinking about going here? But Aleem whittling away the turret just a little bit. Still, look at the attention he's taking.
Yeah, look at that. Speaking of using the appraisers rat earlier, look at the pull from Ethan. Now still holding it through, they're letting it go. But Aleem here has ultimates ready. Cesar is now forced to go back to the base. Let's head on back to that replay.
Okay, look at the replay here. Another great Dragon form utilized by Kazakh there. And you saw it, right? Forbid also took it. Like I said, there's going to be situations where Forbid wants to take the Dragon form, and they continue on. But the problem right now is they're lacking a little bit in the damage department, especially when you take out Bebex. You know, unfortunately, you don't have the damage that you need, right, on the Irithyll, especially this. In a way, it's a little bit too early for Irithyll. She really starts to shine later on in the game.
Yeah, speaking of shining later on in the game, he has the Berserker's Fury now. Bebex has 2 deaths already. He might want to prevent this from happening, because if your stage is on the later side of the game, your teammates will rely on the extra damage, knowing that they have tools to even have for a good team fight. You have Forbid here. You could take out an ultimate from Red. The real manipulation would be so effective with the Fredrin plus the Ling. So we'll see how this goes, but they're not giving up on something here. They might have a pick-off here. Kazakh on half HP, but Kinesis has stopped the movement of Aizen, dropping on 50 HP, 50% HP rather. That's the shield, and Kinesis just falling and right in front of the defenses right now of Mongolia. Sustaining, being pulled by Ethan, still being the right amount of
They're still going.
And still going right in the turn here of Mongolia. Kazakh is now taking, wow, great amount of damage out of Mongolia as well. Now we have silenced Ethan here, and Kazakh as well is trying to secure a borderline, but Kinesis is just being in front. Still sustaining it though, but Forbid could be in trouble there. Wow.
CX.
Red with the flicker missed the kill. Now Cesar used the temple base to escape, but can he make it? No, he won't. Kinesis secures the kill.
That's a feels bad. You knew that he wanted the target there, even utilizing the Tempest of Blades, and just, oh, that was tough to see, you know. And that's when you're playing a lane like that, man. There you go, Lord of Security here on top of it. They might repay though.
The damage Forbid falls down again. Ethan just being in front, trying to pull on 2 or 3 members, but Kness is just right in the front, using the Turtles Boy stance to slow them down, but the Pacer Strat will secure a point for Mongolia.
And with that, they've secured themselves the first Lord of the game here. Also, just, you know, OSX, like I said, back in minute 1, it's going to be a slugfest here. We see it. This replay, though, is exactly, we're capturing the moment. They wanted to see it one more time. ZX Aura goes down there, but then, yeah, it gets a little messy here. Double kill for Ethan, right? But still, Bebex able to survive that too. Great job on him. At this point in the game, he's going to be somewhat of a threat, right, damage-wise, especially when we take a look at the items here in just a little bit.
Look at Aizen.
How he's building. Aizen's just on the run.
Absorbing the damage. No, just Aleem secures him.
Wow.
Now RWM right onto Ethan. That's a double for Aleem, and Kazakhstan is just continuing with this pursuit, using the Astral Recall to force out the Black Dragon form out of the distance. But man, look at the damage from Aleem.
Look at the pressure.
Even the pressure, Cesara trying to close more of the map. It's turning red as of this moment.
Great choice here from ZX Aura. That's probably the best case scenario for him in some of these moments throughout the game. And this is typically what we see from Lings locked in, right? You put pressure on the side lanes when things are not going necessarily your way, especially in this portion of the game. You rely on your team just to deal with the onslaught here. He's looking for a cutoff, though, here.
He's looking for a pull. Tempest of Blades now has been committed by Cesara. That is a conceal. Aizen has taken out Kashi out of the equation here for Kazakhstan, trying to gain control of their own map. Just looking at the items, is now the time, or is this the time of Bebex to shine for the team, or the team fights that Mongolia can do against Kazakhstan?
Well, Bebex, he's got the Haas Claws, he's got the Berserker's Fury, and he's got the Wind Talker, right? For the most part, that should be okay, but I feel like it's still, if you're looking at especially these skirmishes and these fights, I mean, look at the tankiness for Kazakhstan, right? Especially with the front runner here, Kinesis, just being this menace, really, you know, and how this box show works, able to soak up a lot of damage. So one of the big things is either getting through him and then avoiding Kazakh, right, on this Yuzhong, which he's been having an amazing game. He's finding the setups that he needs. He's finding the knockups with the petrified combinations on the right target, and that's what's usually forcing out at least the Nether Realm or some other response from Mongolia. Right now, relatively, it's not too far. There isn't a huge disparity between the two teams, and they're just going at it, you know, for the most part. And as we wait 15 seconds for the next Lord to come up, that's where we're going to see it again. We might see some side pressure from ZX Aura as the Lord starts, because technically one of the great things about Ling is you don't actually have to be there for that Lord dance, right? You can put pressure, you can let the other opposing team start it up, whittle it down, and then kind of swoop in and swing in and hopefully, you know, get the retry win.
Yeah, I love the idea.
Here it is,
Split
they're
push.
already getting in place. A couple pokes, though, for Kazakhstan to come through. And that's one of the big things to deal with, right? The Astral Recalls coming out from Kashi, like we see, and even Aleem. So if he decides to set up, you just have to be careful here if you're Mongolia for the placement. And that's why, actually, they just fully committed the 5v5 in this area. It might come down to whoever decides to start this up first. So look at the placement here on the bottom side, and as well as who decides to maybe use a conceal, maybe find a play, but really,
whoa. Look at the damage right on
do
the
is
snipe shot from
poke him down.
From Aleem. Poke him down, they're being forced out to go back, but
There it
Bebex
is.
is on
There's
the
a
conceal.
conceal.
Who's the first target here? It's going to be Kashi. They found Kashi right onto the bush, but onto the back lines. Look at that, Cesara is taken down 1, 2, Kashi falls down, 3 members dropping down. From Kazakhstan with a follow-up here, red as well. Look at that, Cesara is on a streak, and Forbid takes down Kazakh and Kinesis as well. Look at that, 5-man down right on to Kazakhstan, and from that ambush, from the back line, Zora, Cesara found an opening. Right now, Mongolia onto the last part. They never say die onto the game number 1 as they take the first point against Kazakhstan.
An amazing ending there for a very close game 1. Back and forth it was. And before that all unfolded, OSX, I was saying, you know, it's going to come down to the team who decides to utilize that conceal first. We saw it there. It started up, and it really wasn't much of a Lord dance either. You know, Lord was hit a little bit, but then they're just like, all right, this is our go. They found exactly who they needed to with the conceal play. And also, by the way, Bebex almost died, but it was a clutch Nether Realm that kept him alive so that he could continue to get that damage off when he used that heavy crossbow. And it resulted in at that point, having the 3 items on that Irithyll was great. The damage was there, and then they just run it down mid to claim that first point here for the best of 3. So great performance. Again, both teams, though, it was neck and neck, for the most part there. Back and forth from minute 1.
Yeah. Wow. And just as you were calling, a lane could actually split push. By just being in the position of Team Kazakhstan, you were finding an angle on where to put the real manipulation of an Eve to secure that team fight. But they were the reaction time of Mongolia was just on point to have an ambush coming from the backline, knowing that the Yuzong is inside of Kazakhstan. By the point that they got the marksman out of the picture, it was just go time. And it just dropped down completely, a 5-man wipe, and that gave him the clutch, even the last moment.
And I really liked the draft here from Kazakhstan specifically, and I think they were doing amazing things. Again, this was a very, a very close game between these two teams, and at the same time, it really speaks volumes once again for where Baksha fits in the meta, how useful he can be, how tanky he is, and going back to what we were even discussing yesterday, OSX, about just this durable, this multifaceted durable lineup, what we see teams doing, which is usually, I would say 2 to 3 tanky type heroes, right, for the most part, whether that's your jungler, whether that's your in the XP lane, and even sometimes in the roam, right, you have this not only front line, but you also have basically multiple options to cover your back line, and I think that's something that really works for a lot of these teams. Now, both of them, in a way, also were working with some of the momentum that both these compositions offered. Once again, like I said, it was neck and neck between both. And if this would have continued on, I think, too, you still would have seen ZX Aura pushing those side lanes and not really 100% focusing on the Lord dances, right? Because that was, the second one. They didn't even take it. They didn't even have to, because obviously with that wipe, they move forward.
No.
But, that's the thing. It was just a well-executed game for the most part from both teams. But ultimately, at the end of it, Mongolia came out on top with a better ending team fight.
Yeah, by the experience and how they went through, and now they're into the lower bracket. They have a do-or-die moment there. And that small window completely gave them the confidence to just go in from the back. And Kazakhstan never saw it coming.
Yeah, and I just think, honestly, from that game alone, regardless of which team won it, I'm not even sure who to give MVP to, in terms of that, because for both teams specifically, everybody pulled their weight. This is, I would almost say that this is one of the more closer games that we've had, even from group stages up to here, where it was it was almost to the point of what are you going to land when you flip a coin, right? Because either way, that team fight could have gone to either team, right? And it was just, it so happened the way that it unfolded is that Mongolia was all right, we got this under control. It was a great job too that they actually spotted out some of the members there of Kazakhstan, right? Using that conceal and playing around that, because that's how they worked it. So we can only wait for game number 2. We are going to be taking a short break here, so sit tight with us. We'll be back after this.